Okay, we are officially live on TikTok.
Hello, TikTok.
Let's see how we're doing on the IG. We will check on all platforms just to make sure. Hmm. We're not showing live yet on IG. You are. It says we are live though. Let's see. Let's give it a minute. Let's also check the YouTube. Are you a music lover, Brother Long? As we're waiting, as we're checking,
Um,
we are live.
I'm a musician,
Hmm.
um,
Learn something new.
and I used to be a lyricist and producer and engineer. I was one of the first guys that you could come to my house or I could go to your house, and you could leave with yourself recorded on a CD. I had the one of the first home studios in the hood.
YouTubers, welcome. Brother Long and I are just doing some testing before we get started on today's chat conversation on nutrition, part two. We're very excited to get into this, but we just want to make sure that we are live everywhere that we are supposed to be live. And so, as we're doing that, we're also just learning a little bit more about one another. And so, Brother Long is telling us that he is also a musician. Do you still dabble?
Well, I bought a guitar and a trumpet when I got here, thinking that I would, and I still believe that eventually I will. I do intend to get back into music production.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's try again with the IG. Again, TikTokers, welcome, welcome. Come on in, come on in. YouTubers as well, we appreciate you. We are going to get started shortly. We're just making sure that the IG is working for us because it wasn't last week. As we are still troubleshooting, did you we'll get to know a little bit more about Brother Long. Did you look at the messages I sent you on the latest pandemic? Excuse me, I meant to say pandemic.
No, I didn't, but I have been. They've been passing around some information about that here. I think they got like 4 cases here, the last I heard, and they had said that they were all people who were outside of Rwanda and then came in. So I don't know what they plan to do about it, but it seems like they just been telling everybody to be aware and be cautious.
Mm. We're going to
What
remove
did
the IG and start again with the IG. Sorry, what were you saying?
what's your take on it? Well, if you, I don't know. Uh,
What is my take?
well, yeah. You know much more about the what's the term that you use? Censoring and what's hot and what's not. So if you feel you can talk about it without running into censorship challenges.
Well, I will maybe just say that I have no interest in participating in the shenanigans that took place 4 years ago again. So people can take that as however they see fit, because the reality is there were a lot of questionable decisions that were made, and decisions that were made that I didn't appreciate during the time that they were made, and especially now with the um, fallout from those decisions. Children have been delayed in school as a result. Teachers are quitting their jobs. They're overwhelmed because 2 years at home was really destructive for a lot of children, especially parents that didn't have the luxury of working from home. I have personal friends who are teachers, and what they've seen is a massive regression.
Were the
Um,
kids out of school for 2 years?
yeah, yeah. They were taking Zoom lessons, right, for 2 academic years.
For 2 years.
Hmm. Well, I guess from March 2020 all the way until fall 2022 for many kids. So.
Yeah, I left before the pandemic started.
Hmm. So, it's what we want to see is decision making that is by elected officials who are listening to their constituents. Those kinds of decisions, I think most people would be prepared to comply with. Decisions that are made by billionaires and elites who are neither medical professionals nor elected officials in any capacity. I don't think a lot of people are interested in going down that same path again. People were ripped apart from their families. There was a lot of division and chaos created when the medical procedure was rolled out. That split up a lot of families and friendships, as people saw things very differently as to whether or not medical procedures should be forced upon others or not. Um, so, I don't think that playbook will be successful this time. So I don't know. I don't know what the people want, but I know that I'm not interested in participating in what happened a few years back and doing a repeat of that. However people want to interpret that. So again, we're seeing if we are live on the IG. Anyone that's paying attention, go ahead and chime in if you're aware of the current, emergency as declared by the World Health Organization. What are your thoughts? Did you agree with what happened 4 years ago? Do you see yourself participating in any of that? Please feel free to put it in the comment section. We are
Did you send me an article about who?
the WHO, the World Health Organization.
Really? No, I was not aware that they had declared. So they've declared this thing a thing, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. Oh, I missed that. I definitely I'm going to have to take a closer look at that.
But those of us who have been keeping close ears and eyes on the World Health Organization and the WEF, which is the World Economic Forum, are not surprised by this because we were warned. Same way there was Event 201 that took place in October of 2019, which was a simulation of what a coronavirus outbreak would look like. What a coincidence. Just 4 months before or 5 months before the emergency was declared. Just like Event 201, kind of warned people in around the world in 2019. If people were paying close enough attention, I've been paying attention. This falls right in line with what they've been telling us was en route for 2025, on schedule for 2025. So no surprises thus far. One thing we can say about Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates is they do always warn us. Never a surprise. It's just whether or not you're tuning in, because unfortunately, their warnings don't make it on mainstream media for some strange reason. Maybe because they're labeled as theories.
I remember something saying that I think Bill Gates is like the biggest or second biggest owner of farmland in America. Apparently, he's buying up all the farmland. I'm very interested in what Bill Gates is going to be farming.
So he's currently harvesting meat made out of insects, so fake meat made out of insects, amongst more genetically modified foods. We are live now on IG, so thank you, TikTokers, for your patience. Thank you, YouTube, for your patience. We are finally on IG. We're going to give IGers a minute to come in. Guys, we're going to continue our conversations, Brother Long and myself, on the secrets to self-healing. And today we're going to be going further into nutrition. We introduced nutrition as our new topic last week. There are going to be several parts to this because This particular topic is very near and dear to me, and perhaps even to Brother Long, because we understand the chaos and confusion that's been created around food, and how we have, especially in America, starving fat people, and just around the world, and in the West, malnourished people. And we'll be talking about why the confusion and chaos has been created. It's obviously a means to instill fear, but also for you to hand over your power to the powers that be so that they can tell you what to eat and do things like create a food pyramid, and one that is highly suggested by, say, oh, I don't know, an unelected body, also known as the FDA. So, we'll eventually get into the food pyramid. Perhaps I'll touch upon the food pyramid today and why it's not actually a good idea for you to follow the food pyramid, even though it's been approved to you by the FDA, who may or may not have conflict of interest with big pharma and big food and big tech. We'll see. So in the interim, we'll just allow you guys to come on in and join the room. Please have your questions ready, because we will be taking your questions later on, or perhaps even during. Maybe I'll pause part way and see if there are any questions. But if you happen to have a question now, that doesn't mean you can't pop it into any of the comment boxes, whether you are on TikTok with us, whether you're on IG with us, or on YouTube with us. We see everything. So go ahead and put your comments in, put your questions in, and we will do our best to address them. And also, before we start today's conversation on nutrition, I do want to say, and before I introduce Brother Long and allow him to tell you a little bit more about himself, in case you are new to these conversations, is that there may at times be topics or areas where Brother Long and I will definitively agree and share equal schools of thoughts and experiences. And there may be times where we might even contradict each other, where we might contradict each other. And that's what healthy debate and conversation looks and sounds like. If I try to silence him, if he tries to silence me, you're not going to get the best out of these conversations. Ultimately, you are the expert on you, not your doctor, not a scientist. You are the expert on you, because you feel and live within your own body. And so what is medicine for one might be poison for another. The only way to know that is if you are present and alert enough within yourself, if you are keen enough to understand and learn yourself and become intimate with yourself to the point where you can feel subtle changes that are happening energetically and otherwise after and during consumption of food and beverages. This is the best way to ultimately fine tune your own health and your own nutrition, so that you can cultivate health and or restore health, right? So again, there might be times where we don't agree. There might be times where we contradict, but this is a platform, or at least so long as we're able to discuss this topic openly on these platforms. This is a place where we want to give people the opportunity to listen to multiple sides, multiple schools of thought, and make a decision that's best for them based on their current health status today and where they want to get to. So please know that, again, the onus is going to be on you to fine tweak, to take in what serves you, and to leave behind everything else. Having said that, now I think it would be a great time for Brother Long to introduce himself and tell us a little bit, tell the listening audience a little bit about your background and what it is that you do. The floor is yours.
My name is Brother Long, and I'm interested in teaching self-healing, primarily through the universal healing Taoist practices as taught by Master Mantak Chia. The information that I put together for today's class, I came across that information as I was going through a community health worker training that was put together by the Ohio Board of Nursing. And apparently the Ohio Board of Nursing is apparently a big deal in the medical industry. And so when we went through that class, a part of our training was to learn how to do high quality medical research. And so they taught us about medical journals. And we were required to do 6 hours of medical research. And when I learned about the medical journals, being that the doctors and the scientists across the world who are doing research in the various fields and various things, they publish their findings in medical journals. And then the powers that be look at the medical journals and decide which information they're going to allow the American public to know, and then which information that the American public is not going to be made aware of. And so when I found out that there's all this scientific knowledge and truth that's essentially hidden from us, and the only way you would know it is if you read the medical journals or know someone else who did, who can share the information with you, then for a while, I became addicted. And instead of studying for just 6 hours, I wound up studying for over 100 hours. And I wound up learning very, very interesting things. And my specific interest was learning about cancer because I had lost my grandmother to cancer. And when I found out about medical journals, I became curious as what did the medical journals have to say about cancer? My grandmother's husband had been lost to a heart attack. And I became curious as to what the medical journals had to say about heart attacks. And as I began to research and spend dozens and dozens and dozens of hours trying to understand heart attacks, strokes, cancer, and diabetes, it blew my mind the information that is known and that is out there, but that just is not made available for the general population and American public to learn.
Okay. Well, hello, fam. My name is Lisa. I am a certified health coach, holistic practitioner with Brother Long, with the Chek Institute, which is founded by Paul Chek himself. And so Paul Chek is a mentor of mine as well as a teacher. I have been familiar with Paul Chek and his teachings for over 20 years since I got out of my time in London, England, which is where I met my first mentor, who happened to be a Chek practitioner. And over the years, I continued to read about Paul Chek and read his blogs, etc., and was already living a fairly holistic lifestyle, certainly more than the average person. And then eventually, I decided to just attend the academy and get my certification so that I could help loved ones around me. I think one of the call to actions for me was when I began to see my health deteriorate, but also that of close family members who were living in the West. My grandparents on my maternal side both lived to be almost 100 years old without any medications. Eritrea is too poor for big pharma, and it's also too poor for pesticides. Turns out that in a lot of ways that's worked out in Eritrea's benefit because people are able to live long lives, not perfect lives, but long lives just naturally, more simplistically. And so I wanted to be able to help family members, friends who were far too young to be sick, far too young to be dying. And that created this desire in me to essentially pursue health and wellness full time so that I would have the tools, the skill set, the knowledge, the language, and also the certification to actually be able to provide help and assistance. That's my passion. In addition to that, I'm also a licensed yoga teacher. I have close to 1,000 hours of yoga teacher training and a little over 5 years under my belt as a yoga teacher. So those of you that are interested in yoga, because I'm a corrective exercise coach, meaning I study integrative movement science and anatomy through the Chek Institute, that has certainly informed how I approach and teach yoga. So if you're a person that's keen or interested in taking yoga one-on-one or group settings from somebody who's trained also as an exercise coach and sees the body very differently and also does very traditional style yoga, which is very spiritually aligned and less of this boot camp style in the West, then, please reach out to me. I do group and private classes. I'm available at alkaleayogi.com. Brother Long also is accepting clients, various capacities. And I've already pinned his email address below, so you can see that in the comment section. If you're on IG, I'm actually going to add it now to the YouTube chat, and I will in a moment add it to TikTok. So again, you can reach out, connect with Brother Long if you are in need of healing, which I'm sure all of us are to a degree. And as I'm doing that, I think I will start off today with a short video by Paul Chek, which will kind of introduce what I'm going to be focusing on, my portion of the conversation today. And I also want to read to you a phrase, a passage, if you will, by a retired physician, Dr. Greenberg. Let me just add this to the chat. Brother Long. All right, so that's available on YouTube and IG, TikTok. I will come to you in just a moment because you are very new to me, TikTok. And so I actually am not quite sure how to add it here, but I will come back to you in a second. So just stay put. In the meantime, TikTok, you can jot down one period, brotherlong@gmail.com. And then I'll be sure to pin that. So before I add, like I said, Brother Long's presentation and I allow him to take the floor, I just want to first show you a couple of things. One second. All right. This again is my mentor, Paul Chek.
Nutrition is remember.
Whoa, there we go. All right. Meet my mentor, founder of the Chek Institute, and my teacher, Paul Chek.
A simple tip for nutrition is remember you are what you eat. We turn over every single cell in our body on average in 1 year, including the cells in your teeth. So you're literally making yourself out of what you're eating. So my advice on food is always go for certified organic food and buy the highest quality food you can. And that will give you the most energy and the most nutrition because on average, solid research shows that real organic food is about 4 times more nutritious than commercially farmed food. So when you look at all the surgeries and all the vitamins and all the supplements people are using, it's mostly to compensate for bad food. So the tip for food is eat the best food you can possibly get. I tell people if you have to sell your car, buy a cheaper car, or ride a bicycle so you can eat good food, do it. Because you'll be around a long time. But if you don't do that, you'll have a fancy car that you drive to doctors and therapists all day long, and you'll spend far more money on drugs and doctors than you ever would have on food.
Okay, so that was the man himself, kind of summarizing it very simplistically. What your first call of action would be if you're looking to cultivate a healthier, more holistic lifestyle, and when it comes to nutrition and how to approach it. So I really want to simplify it for you all because it can be quite inundating. There's a lot of information that both Brother Long and I have that we're going to share, and that's why we're going to spread it out over the course of a few weeks. But to get started today, what you just heard Paul Chek say here is a great starting point because you are what you eat. I want to now hand the floor over to Brother Long. So let me just bring his presentation up. And Brother Long, here you are. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So we were just talking about WHO, which is the World Health Organization. And in my nursing health class, they had mentioned what different people at different socioeconomic statuses are concerned with. And they said people in the low socioeconomic status, they're only concerned about their local information and local news. And that people from the middle class are more concerned about national news and national information. and that people in the higher classes are concerned about international news and international information. And then they told us kind of a authoritative body at each level. Locally, you might have your county.
Nutrition.
I lost the presentation. Locally, you may have your county and the information that you can find in the county. Nationally, you have the information that is put out by the federal government instead of the local county or state government. And internationally, they care about information put out by the WHO, the World Health Organization. And so I began to study this World Health Organization. And one of the things that was fascinating to me is that as I was looking through different information about the World Health Organization, I found out that the World Health Organization had classified red meat and processed meat to be carcinogens. Now, I took my training class in 2016. This information about the World Health Organization came out in 2015. So it had only been publicly known that red meat and processed meat were carcinogens for maybe only even less than a year when I first learned about it. At this point, it's about 10 years old, okay? And even now, 10 years later, most people are not aware that the World Health Organization has classified red meat and processed meats as carcinogens. Carcinogen means cancer causing, okay? So if you eat cancer causing foods, you will get cancer. And so that was very fascinating to me because my grandmother had passed of cancer. And so the question becomes, what is considered red meat and what is considered processed meat? And so if you're interested in the difference between red meat and processed meat, I challenge you to get on the World Health Organization and look it up, okay? You can get on the World Health Organization yourself, type this in, and they give you all different type of information, including what is considered a red meat and what is considered a processed meat. Now, red meat was classified as a group 2A, probably carcinogenic, okay? But processed meat was classified as a group 1, okay? Definitely carcinogenic. And some other things that are classified as group 1 carcinogens are things like tobacco smoke and asbestos. So tobacco smoke, asbestos, processed meat, these are all in the same category, okay? Now, all Taoists are not vegetarian. In fact, Master Chia serves meat at the Tao Garden and eat meat himself. But because he knows that the meat causes cancer, he does certain special practices to cancel out the negative effects of the meat. And so being a vegetarian is not for everybody. If you're not a vegetarian and you are concerned about meat-eating diseases, then you need to make sure that you are also doing things to counterbalance the negative effects that the meat could have. Okay. And so one of the reasons that processed meat and red meat are carcinogenic is because the proteins in meat, everything in nature that eats meat eats it raw and bloody. Nothing in nature cooks meat except humans. And so when you cook the meat, it transforms the protein into a carcinogenic substance. And so I believe we took a look at the Catawba people last week, And the thing about the Catawba people is they did eat fish, but they never cooked it. The fish that they ate were little tiny fish that they would just stand in the stream and grab little tiny fish and eat them raw for a snack. Everything in nature that eats the fish and was designed to eat the fish eats it just like that. And so if you're going to eat your meat raw, that's one thing. If you're going to be cooking your meat, it's going to become carcinogenic. And you need to be trying to figure out the things that you can do in order to counterbalance that. Now, for me, when I continue my research and continue to make the link between eating meat and meat-eating diseases, it turned out that all of the diseases of civilization were meat-eating diseases. People don't even know that they're called diseases of civilization. They're just called disease. But the reason they're called diseases of civilization is that you only get these diseases when you live in civilizations that eat meat. There are certain societies that are vegetarian, and they have lots of research on the type of health challenges that those people have. And then there's the rest of the world. And learning and comparing these two can be very eye-opening. Now, some people's bodies may require meat, and some people's bodies may not. You have to know yourself, learn, experiment with yourself, and you have to know what you're doing, because a lot of people become vegetarian and they become unhealthy. We have a lot of unhealthy vegetarians because being a vegetarian does not equal healthy. Okay. Oftentimes vegetarians are unhealthy because there's certain things that your body needs. And people who eat meat are able to get those things. If you don't eat meat, you have to find out how to substitute the things that meat gives you, or else your body will wind up nutritionally deficient, and that will lead to all types of health challenges and disease. Another piece of research that was very fascinating to me was the Nurses' Health Study. They figured that because nurses are educated, they could fill out forms better. So in 1976, they began recruiting nurses to take part in this health study where they fill out all types of information about their personal life and lifestyle. And they've been tracking these nurses since 1976 to see the effect that their lifestyle choices have on their health and wellness outcomes. And so they've got all this data that shows you the correlation between what you eat and what disease you experience, and a wide range of other things beyond just the eating part. Okay. But the one thing I remember about this, it was so fascinating because they actually had the data that broke it down to, for every piece of red meat you eat, it reduces your life by so many days or minutes or, whatever the rubric was. It was fascinating to me. Okay. At this point, there's over 280,000 nurses participating in this health study, giving their data and giving their information. And it's a very, very great and fascinating source of information. Now, why the general public is not made aware of these connections between diet and health is a good conversation to have. But your relationship to food determines your relationship to health. Okay. You want to eat to live, not eat for taste. Because things that taste good doesn't mean that they are good. Another study that took place is the Adventist health study. Because the Seventh-day Adventist Church, half of them believe that if you eat meat, you'll go to hell. So they're strict vegetarians. And the other half believe you can eat meat and you won't go to hell. And so they eat meat. So this created a very interesting research group for research into the effects of eating meat versus not eating meat. Okay. Now, if you don't eat meat, you need to make sure that you're eating fruits and veggies, nuts and seeds, so you can get all of your essential nutrients. Okay. Most people don't eat many nuts or many seeds. And so without eating nuts and seeds, your body won't have the vitamins and minerals that it needs to operate. Okay. You shouldn't be taking vitamin and mineral supplements. You should be eating nuts and seeds that contain vitamins and minerals. Fruits and veggies, nuts and seeds, and then foods every color of the rainbow. You need to be eating your reds, your oranges, your yellows, your blues, your greens, and your purples. All these different type of foods, because each different color of food is going to provide your body with different nutritional needs. And so we want to taste the rainbow and eat this large variety of food. And then you want to eat your food close to raw or lightly steamed. Some things need to be semi-cooked to make them more digestible. But the thing about the vegetables at the Chinese restaurant, when you go to the Chinese restaurant, you take the vegetables out, you take a pepper out, an onion out, a carrot out, and if you bite it, it will crunch. The crunch in the carrot, in the pepper, in the onion, that crunch comes from the vitamins and the minerals in the vegetable, giving it this hard structure. If you overcook your vegetable to the point where now you bite it and it's just mushy and it's soggy, there's no crunch, which means there's no vitamins and no minerals. So you want your vegetables to be close to Chinese vegetables. You want to hear that crunch and not cook the nutrition out of your food. Most food, you only need to steam it for 2 to 3 minutes, and you should steam 2 to 3 minutes and then crunch away. The Cleveland Clinic has a heart disease reversal program. Heart disease is the #1 killer of people in America. Well over 10 years ago, it was 600,000 people a year were dying from heart disease. I'm sure that today it's probably over 700,000 people every year that are dying of heart disease. Okay. The scariest thing about that, the #1 killer, heart disease, which is a disease of civilization, it is a disease of choice. Dying from a heart attack is a choice that you choose to give yourself, but you choose unknowingly. Destroy for lack of knowledge. Okay. The first sign that a third of the people have, okay, over 200,000 people every year, the very first sign that they get so they can know that they have heart disease, the very first sign is sudden death. Okay. Because what happens is people think that they're healthy because you don't understand how disease evolves within the body, because we don't learn to look at disease at the cellular level. So here you are every day getting closer and closer and closer to a fatal heart attack, a fatal stroke. And the whole time you think you're healthy. You think you have no health problems. And then boom, heart attack, instant death, out. That happens to thousands and thousands and thousands of people every day. So what I suggest you do is learn about these diseases. Learn about them from a cellular perspective. Instead of just thinking, oh, it's a heart attack, What is a heart attack? What is going on in the cells of the heart at a cellular level to cause the heart attacks? Same thing for the cancer. What is happening at the cellular level? Because your whole body is made up of cells. So any problem in your body, you can learn how to identify the cells that are causing the problem. Now, once you learn to understand the cells that are causing the problem, you can understand what those cells need to be healthy, what those cells experience to cause them to be unhealthy, and what you can do to put your cells in a position where they can begin to heal themselves. When you go to the doctor and they give you your paperwork about your problem or your disease, the paperwork will help explain what's going on at a cellular level. We don't read it. We don't have interest in it. Or we don't understand it. You got to get in that thing. You got to break that thing down. If you have a family member that's got some type of sickness and disease and they've been to the hospital gave them a paper that explains their disease at a cellular level. You need to get that paper, open up a medical dictionary, and start looking up all these words that you don't know and start putting the pieces of the puzzle together so that you can understand what is happening to you or your loved one at a cellular level. And then you need to understand the determining factors of those cells to be deteriorating versus regenerating. And this is how you can begin to take control over your own self-healing journey, whether it's diabetes, cancer, heart attack, stroke, whatever it is, you learn it at the cellular level and then learn what do those cells need to become better. Okay. So there was a man named Dr. Esselstyn, and his story is told in a book, not a book, but a movie on Netflix. It's called Forks Over Knives. Okay. Now, you used to be able to watch this on Netflix for free, but the last time I checked, you had to pay an extra fee to be able to watch it. But in the documentary, Forks Over Knives, it tells the story of Dr. Esselstyn from the Cleveland Clinic, as well as Dr. Caldwell from, I want to say Stanford, but I keep forgetting which was his Ivy League university that he researched. But anyways, Dr. Esselstyn, and if we look up here, it should say his name somewhere here. See, Dr. Esselstyn, okay? He was a heart surgeon, and he was getting $100,000 for each heart bypass surgery. And he was doing them every day, 100,000 every day, every day, every day. But he started to do heart surgeries on the same patients over and over and over again. And he realized that he was getting rich off people's sickness, but he wasn't healing anybody. Everybody kept getting sick again. And it began to weigh on his conscience because as a doctor, he wanted to heal people. He didn't want to just keep using people as a cash cow to make money. So he actually stepped away from doing heart surgery, and he focused all his powers on discovering the root cause of heart attacks and heart disease and how to stop them. And when he discovered it, he created this heart disease reversal program. He reached out to over 20 people, I think it might have been 26, and asked them to take part in his new initiative. But in order to be invited, you had to already have had multiple heart bypass surgeries. You already had to have at least 2 or 3 heart bypass surgeries, or he wouldn't take you on. And the only thing that he did to reverse the heart disease in 100% of these people and give all of them life for at least 10, 15, 20 extra years, the only thing he did was change their diet. That's it. Because heart disease is a disease of choice. You have to choose to give it to yourself. So he told them, stop eating the things that are going to give you another heart attack, make you have another heart thing. And then start eating the things that are going to heal your heart. He had about 2 or 3 people that said, no, we're not willing to change our diet. We like what we eat. And all of those people died in like 2 years. The rest of them said, okay, doc, we don't want to die. We want to live. So we're going to give this thing a try. And every last one of them was able to live 10, 15, 20 more years. And all they did was change their diet. The other doctor in that documentary, his thing was the cancer. And China has this huge, giant medical book on the diseases of China. And he saw that each type of cancer was centered in a different part of China. This part of China, everybody had, ear cancer. This part of China, everybody had tongue cancer. This part of China, everybody had stomach cancer. And all the cancers were concentrated into different areas. And so he began to question why. And what he found was that the diet was creating the type of cancer that they had. And people who lived in certain regions shared the similar diet. Okay. So if you want to learn more about that, I strongly encourage you, if you have Netflix and you're serious about health and being healthy and living long, and you haven't watched Forks Over Knives, then you're doing yourself a great disservice. And the last thing that I want to share is the concept of eating right for your blood type. Long time ago, all humans only had one blood type. That was it. But then humans began to migrate out of Africa and spread all across the globe. And when you move to different parts of the world, you can't grow the same kind of foods in every part of the world. So as humans migrated across the world, they had to cultivate and consume the crops that would grow in those areas. Your blood is what transports your nutrients throughout your body so they can do the work they need to do. But different foods have different nutrients. So when the original blood type met new foods and the foods did not mesh very well with the original blood type, then human blood types changed. And a new blood type was developed that could process the type of food being consumed much better. And so this happened again and again. And there's 4 major blood types. There's lots of other smaller little segments, but there's 4 basic general blood types. And if you don't know your blood type, you need to find out. And then when you find your blood type, you can get this book, Eat Right for Your Blood Type, and it will tell you, based on your blood type, which foods are your body able to process very well, which foods your body cannot process very well, and which foods are neutral. So you got this list of all these different type of foods and if they're good for your blood type or not. And from that list, you pick out something every color of the rainbow, and you begin to incorporate that into your daily diet. And by doing this, you can put yourself in a state where you could avoid ever having to experience certain type of diseases, because certain diseases are diseases of choice, and you can learn to choose not to give them to yourself. And with that, I'll pass.
All right. Thank you, Brother Long. So, going back to what I said before I handed the floor over to Brother Long, there's going to be a lot of information over the next few weeks pertaining to nutrition, which is a very it's a very large topic, and it's also one of great importance because Hippocrates said it himself 2,500 years ago that food is thy medicine, right? And so it can be confusing and sometimes overwhelming for people to know where to begin when it comes to their nutrition. Do they eat right for the blood type? Do they follow keto? Do they go paleo? Do they maybe do metabolic typing? What is it that's right for you? And that's what I mean by sometimes we're going to not necessarily contradict, even might not be the right term. Maybe we're complementary opposites. Um, I personally am not schooled on eating right for your blood type, but I'm familiar with this book and I'm familiar with this concept. It's not something I've studied, so I can't speak from an informed place. What I have found to be true, based on my studies and my experience, is metabolic typing, which generally follows your ancestry back to wherever you came from, and based on whether you are closer to the poles rather, you would eat more meat, gamey, um, animal fat and protein, versus whether you're closer to the equator, where you would eat a more plant-based, whole plant-based diet, meaning not packaged artificial cheeses and spreads and those kinds of things. You should be eating more fruits and vegetables. Ultimately, this is where the onus then it comes on you, right? Is what is it that makes sense for you? What is it that resonates with you? Because if you're in tune with your own body and your own intuition, you should be able to feel again subtle energy changes. After you eat this, you notice you're feeling gassy and bloated. After you eat that, you might notice you're foggy and not and very lethargic, as opposed to when you eat some other foods that make you very energized and make you more alert, more agile. So this is where you are now the master of your own domain. This is where you are now the head coach of your own team, that team leading you back to wellness or keeping you a winning champion at health, right? That's always preferred because it's better to be preventative than it is to be curative at the end of the day. So neither one of us are going to tell you that there's any absolutes here. Nothing that we're saying to you is law. Also, I didn't add this at the beginning of the conversation, but I will do so now. We're also not offering you medical advice. What we're offering you is an opportunity to gain interest in your own well-being, in mastering what fuels you and what nourishes you versus what makes you sick. For example, again, if I trace my lineage back, I'm from Eritrea, which is a coastal country just off of the Red Sea in the Horn of East Africa. Therefore, me and my ancestors have done quite well on seafood. I don't participate in crustaceans, although I don't consider myself religious. There are many religions that actually would tell you to avoid crustaceans. I've chosen to ignore crustaceans, but I'm quite happy on fish. I'm also close to the equator, relatively speaking, so I do well also on loads of veggies, some fruit. But again, if you're Scandinavian or you're an Eskimo or a Native American, excuse me, a Native Indian of First Nations in Canada, for instance, and you grew up, somewhere near the Yukon territories or the Northwest territories, you probably are not going to have access to things like papaya and blueberries. And so you should be eating what is local for you. That to me would be things that to me would be sound advice. But again, these are things that people should be testing out for themselves, because only you know what it's like to be within your own body. I did speak last week about bioindividuality, which was a concept first introduced by a biochemist named Roger Williams. If you didn't listen to last week's podcast or conversation, please refer back to that. Because bioindividuality, again, means that we are as different on the inside as we are as different on the inside, yes, as we are on the outside. So our capacity to transport oxygen, the positioning of our organs and the size of our organs, the capacity of our organs are all going to differ. None of us are going to have the exact same organs at the exact same shape and size with the exact same oxygen, blood capacity or oxygen capacities, or even digestive capacities, right? So that is to say, more succinctly, that we are all individuals. And that is why there's never a one size fits all. Part of the issue that I personally have with the medical industrial complex is that they oftentimes treat everyone as though everyone is exactly the same. That's why any medical procedures that are sort of mandated or forced upon people en masse, to me, just don't make sense. One person's medicine can literally be someone else's poison, literally. And so we have to be aware of that. And it's important that we are participants in our own health and we speak up when the medical industrial complex or your physician, whom you should always consult, by the way, whenever embarking on a new lifestyle, preferably a holistic lifestyle. You should always speak to that person, but you should also question them because they're not the end all be all. When they tell you that you should just, take this for your blood pressure, take that for your diabetes, when there are in fact ways to reverse these things naturally. Again, we're not offering medical advice, nor are we diagnosing anyone. We are simply saying that if you have an interest in not living a life where you are fatigued chronically, where you're struggling to sleep, you're constipated, you're maybe feeling anxious and depressed all the time, you're having difficulty regulating your hormones as well as your weight, which are all very common ailments in today's society, but they're common and shouldn't be normalized, right? So what was common today was not common 150 years ago. Most of this stuff didn't exist 150 years ago, including autoimmune disorders. So obviously something that we're doing is not working for us. And to me, by, through my education and my sort of experience, to me, it's the lifestyle that is really the main issue, which is why Brother Long and I are a good point of contact for those of you that are interested in participating and in cultivating your own wellness and healing journey. Because if it's not an acute emergency, then you should be looking at ways to fine tweak, and tune your own behaviors and lifestyle choices in a way that is more life affirming, right? As opposed to a way that is going to make you more sick. So coming to see wellness professionals like us could really make all the difference and might even make it so that you don't need to go to a doctor, right? But oftentimes if you go to a doctor, you're going to just get a prescription. I saw a cute post just before Brother Long and I went live on Dr. Sherry Tenpenny's IG page. I highly recommend you check her out, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, a doctor who actually lost her license for a period of time, chiropractor, but she lost her license nonetheless because she's actually really not a big advocate for in general. And she has done over 20 years of study into this field and has quite a lot of really relevant information as to why perhaps it's worth your while reconsidering always taking whenever suggested by a medical professional. And during the pandemic, she spoke out and was deplatformed and her license was taken away. This, unfortunately, is very common nowadays. I bring her up to say that her post today said, congratulations to Pfizer, who has been around for, I think it said like 150 years today and have cured exactly 0 diseases. So your answer is not going to come. Oftentimes, your answer is not going to come in the form of a pill, right? And again, when you look at Western medicine and where it evolved from this, from Hippocrates, or so they tell us. And his mantra, first and above all, was food is thy medicine. And I always like to then follow that up with Steve Jobs' quote, which was, if you don't make food your medicine, then medicine will become your food. And that's always worth pondering on and thinking about, to again keep things a little bit simple and not to over inundate you with too much information today. I really just want to again reiterate what Paul said at the top of this conversation, which is if you're going to start anywhere with nutrition, it should be getting organic foods, certified foods, because although especially in America, unfortunately, organic foods are probably to some degree contaminated because conventional and organic farms tend to oftentimes be side by side. There are chemtrails sprayed over the United States, unfortunately, which then go on to pollute organic farming. There's cross-contamination and pollination due to insects, right? Loads of things that obviously can bring still a certain amount of residuals from conventional farming to organic farming. But your job is to simply just do the best that you can. That's all you can do. You have to leave the rest up to God or whomever it is that you believe in and pray to. But your responsibility is to do your best to source the best possible food out there, because this is exactly what is building you. Your food, as Paul said, mentioned will eventually replace every cell in your teeth, in your bones. By the way, your teeth are part of your skeletal system. Cells in your eyes, your glands, your tissues, etc., will all be replaced all within a year's time. Your stomach lining is replaced every 3 weeks, right? So the body is actually what introduced mankind to this idea of recycling, right? We recycle because it's supposed to be better for the planet. But in actuality, it was the body really that showed us what recycling is and taught us that nothing is ever wasted and that everything needs to be utilized. And that this is how we conserve, this is how we honor, and this is how we are able to always have something on reserve, is by simply not being wasteful. So because we're constantly recreating ourselves, our nails, our hair, our muscles, right? You want to be building those things with food that is integral, with food that is pure and whole, right? So organic food is very important. Do not, by all means, disregard that and think that, oh, because it's too expensive, it's not worth it. Because if you're driving an Audi, or you're driving a Mercedes-Benz, or you're driving a BMW, I'm guessing that you're paying top dollar for fuel. Well, your body is more important than that vehicle. So why would you put anything other than premium fuel into your own vehicle, your vessel, which is your body? You're going to pay top dollar to feed your Audi, but not pay top dollar to feed yourself. It really doesn't make any sense when you think about it. I have a good friend, God bless her, who I remember before she got on the organic train. To be fair, I don't know if she's eating organically or not today either, but I do remember some time ago her saying to me that although she didn't see the benefit of eating organically, but this was before she had children and a family, so this may have changed now, that if she ever had a pet, she would feed that pet organically. And again, why would you put anything else above yourself? You don't have anything to give until you are full. You must first take care of yourself, the same way that you would apply your oxygen mask first. If the oxygen mask were deployed whilst on an aircraft and the pressure dropped before your child's, because what good are you to your child if you pass out from lack of oxygen? What good are you to your loved ones if you're not healthy, if you're not self-sustaining, if you're not vibrant, if you're not energized? So again, things to consider. For me in our household, after the mortgage, the next biggest expense by far, especially during these inflated times, is our grocery bill, by far, because I don't cut any corners. And in saying that, right, I believe that, our return is that none of us are on any prescriptions. And that is always quite surprising when I see a doctor, however rare that is. It's every few years, but they're surprised actually that I'm not on any kind of medication at all. And neither is my husband. And we would like to keep it that way. So for us, it's worth the investment. So again, something to ponder and think about. If that means that, we don't get to have as many nights out at the cinema, if that means that we don't get to, buy a new pair of kicks this year, so be it. A new pair of five-finger shoes from Vibram, or some earthing shoes, right? Which is what I support. Then so be it. Then I wait until next year, because food is the one thing that I won't compromise on. I'll reuse my clothes and my shoes until I simply can't anymore, but I won't divert budget from food, which is a necessity, for other things that we don't necessarily need, i.e. entertainment, etc. The other thing that I want you all to be aware of when you're simplifying your life and wanting to, again, create more health for yourself, is that as important as it is to eat organically, certified organic, is also to eat non-genetically modified foods. Just like with conventional foods, both genetically modified foods and conventional foods are depleted in nutrients. Studies have shown this. In fact, I'll just quickly read to you this one little paragraph. Arpan Pusztai set out to prove that GMO foods were safe for human consumption. That's what he had received funding for, right? Oftentimes, this is how it happens. You have organizations, big corporations on the other side that are needing to make a point, and so they'll pay for these clinical trials, which, by the way, cost millions and millions of dollars. oftentimes in the tens of millions of dollars. So they're not cheap to run, especially when they're clinically reviewed and done over a long period of time. So Arpad Pusztai, and I probably am butchering his name, forgive me, set out to prove that GM foods were safe for human consumption. His findings, however, showed something entirely different. Using a GMO potato with added GNA, which stands for Galanthus nivalis agglutinin, to increase the plant's resistance to pests, which is always the story that we're given. We have to spray, we have to genetically modify to protect the food from the pests so that there's enough for everyone. What he found was that they came out with considerably less protein. So these GMO potatoes had considerably less protein than the ones that had not been altered. If that's not enough to ward you off GMO foods, in that same study, Pusztai found a link with abnormal organ and development and immune responsiveness in rats. Okay, because those were the guinea pigs, unfortunately. So just because the FDA has approved GMO foods, have you ever considered why the rest of the world doesn't want America's foods? Africa is not importing it. Europe is not touching it. It's just simply not worth it to them. It's very sad to see that here, lobbyists are more influential than constituents, because right here in the DC of Washington, I'm in the DMV area, there are 600 lobbyists working for Big Pharma alone. So do you think it's our agenda as citizens of this race? I'm not a citizen of America, but citizens of this country in this race, or whose voice is going to matter more, or that of the corporations that can afford to pay 600 lobbyists to be at Capitol Hill daily to wine and dine your politicians, your elected officials who are supposed to be working on your behalf, right? So that would be for me where I would tell you to start. I'm also going to add a little video that kind of let's see, how are we doing for time? Actually, I won't add that video because we are short on time now. Before I open it up to questions and the like, I do want to just end with one more image, if I can place it here. Hang on a second. I always have difficulty just showing standard JPEGs here. Let me see if I share the screen. What happens if I want to go to, here we are, okay. Share entire screen. Good, okay. Share, and then let's open this guy up. And do you guys see what I'm seeing? No, we're still seeing Brother Long's. Let me see what happens if I remove this. Oh, no. Hang on a second. Again with the share screen. Entire screen. Okay, let's see. All right. No, you guys still can't see this. All right, forgive the, yeah, I think what I will do now is just, if this thing doesn't upload, is I'll just simply read it to you all. Okay, yeah, we'll just read it to you all. It's a little bit tricky with StreamYard. Sometimes it's not as easy as just extra camera. No. All right, so this is by Dr. Alan Greenberg, a retired physician. He is quoted as saying, "As a retired physician, I can honestly say that unless you're in a serious accident, your best chance of living to a ripe old age is to avoid doctors and hospitals and to learn nutrition, herbal medicine, and other forms of natural medicine, unless you are fortunate enough to have a naturopathic physician available to you. Almost all drugs are toxic and are designed only to treat symptoms and not to cure anyone." So hopefully that resonates with you. there is so much more that we're going to dive into, but again, I want to keep it slightly bite-sized so that you're not overwhelmed. So if today you can take the information that Brother Long shared with us about, from the World Health Organization, from the nurse studies, from the Eat Right for Your blood type, along with what I've shared with you all prior in a prior conversation with regards to metabolic typing and understanding your lineage and how to eat based on where your ancestors came from, with obviously local tweaks because most of us don't live where our ancestors came from. And then also just starting with eating only certified organic food and non-genetically modified foods going forward. That right there, to me, are great starting points. And if you have any questions about those, you can reach out to Brother Long. His details are in all of the chats, both on TikTok, on the IG, and on the YouTube. And for me, you can get a hold of me by DMing me or go to alkaliyogi.com. I'm also available at alkaliyogi@yahoo.com. So we look forward to hearing you all. I'll just have a quick peek to see if anyone has inserted anything. There was just one question that came out earlier. I don't know if this means anything to you, Brother Long. Do you know anything about nasal polyps? I don't know what that is or how that nutrition would tie into that. I have not looked into it.
I don't know anything about it at all.
Okay. So for this person, I guess if you're still wanting us to answer this, reach out to one of us and perhaps we could do a little bit of research and we could give you a short consultation on that. So you know how to get in touch with us with that person. To that person. On that note, we're going to sign off now because we've been on for about an hour's time. And we thank you all for coming and watching. And if you enjoyed this and found it beneficial, please again, share it, watch it again and again, like it, comment it. This helps with the algorithm. And we want to be able to get this information out. These are secrets that we're wanting to share with you lot for free of charge. So it can't hurt. It might help. Final words?
Thank everybody for tuning in. Catch you on the next one.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Nutrition Part 3 coming up. And see you all next week, guys. Thank you all. Have a great night.